Well, one of the main problems, as I see it, is that there's a misconception about undocumented migrant women workers in this region. A lot of focus has been made on counter-trafficking and the trafficking in women, and while that needs to be addressed, we also need to think more about the wider range of undocumented women workers here. It's not just forced migration, but voluntary migrations of various kinds. Some women are voluntarily migrating to even work as sex workers. Others are migrating for domestic work or to work as salespeople or tradesmen. So there's a variety of migrations going on here that we need to pay attention to, even just to understand what's going on with trafficking. The unintended consequences of these counter-trafficking programs, particularly at the organization I was researching, the International Organization for Migration, on this wider range of undocumented women workers is quite dire, because if they seek to stop the migration altogether of women from Moldova to Turkey. If they do that, a lot of women's livelihoods will be cut off, and these families that they're not just supporting in terms of survival, but who they're trying to make better futures for, will really be affected. Well, it is a very complex situation, and it deserves a great deal of thought and a number of different ways to address it. But one thing is for certain is that we have to have research that's focused not just on the source of the migrations in Moldova, but also in these destinations like places like Turkey, as I researched. We need to listen to the women's voices about the complex reasonings that they have and rationales for leaving, even when they know the risks to trafficking that they're putting themselves into. And we need to understand that often gender ideologies and ideas about women's contributions to their families, or the lack of recognition of those contributions, can affect these counter-trafficking policies or migration policies in the region. There are lessons here that do apply globally, not just to this case of migration from Moldova to Turkey, but more broadly. In the categorizing of migrants and the way that those categorizations can affect how we help migrants. In this case, women who aren't deemed or under the category of trafficked, but are nonetheless exploited, don't have any recourse to any aid. Similarly, in the case of migrations from the Middle East, say Syria to Europe, oftentimes people are distinguishing, and organizations and governments will be distinguishing between labor migrants or migrants in general and refugees, when in fact the categories are much more mixed. There can be people who are forced to migrate from Syria because of their economic displacement due to war, and not because of the risk to their lives necessarily, and those people are in dire need of help as well. So I think that those broader lessons need to be brought to bear on those, on the issues going on more in the global context.